And welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. My name is Lewis. Next to me, as always, my beautiful co-host Laraib, as we're here to break down already week 14 of the NFL season. We are almost there, already a month away from playoff football. I bring this up every week, but it's super exciting seeing these massive matchups with huge playoff implications on all of them. And before we get into this week, this is our final weeks of bye weeks. Thank goodness, with a big slew of teams on their bye weeks. The Denver Broncos, Indianapolis Colts, the New England Patriots, Washington Commanders, Baltimore Ravens, and Nico Collins are all on bye this week. As we commence with week 14, before we start, we did not film our Tuesday episode. Just schedule conflicts.
Too much
Rob was
turkey from
busy.
last week.
If you know what, a lot to be thankful for in our eyes. Speaking of being thankful, Rob, just to a quick picks recap for last week to kind of get you all back up to speed. I did come out victorious. Huge shout out to my Philadelphia Eagles for beating the Ravens. And then besides that, everything else went to plan. So huge bounce back for me. Any games that stood out to you last week, Larob? Maybe you didn't just quite get a good grasp on.
Oh, that Steelers Bengals game that also went in your favor, giving you the week. And I mean, I'm still winning. So, scoreboard, as they say, 6-5-2 with 4 weeks left. So it is going to be tight, tight, tight
Ooh!
going down the stretch.
Five
And it
weeks,
all starts
technically.
here in week 14. Let's go ahead and start off with Thursday Night Football in a huge matchup. We have the Green Bay Packers going to Detroit to play the Lions. And this is, 3.5, three is where it's been at all week long. And I am loving the road team in this one. Give me the Green Bay Packers. Jordan
Ooh!
Love Toyota Thon is back. It took a little while for him to heat up, but he's been playing great, sound football the last couple of weeks. Josh Jacobs, they've really been leaning on him, 15 plus carries in I think almost every game this season. And he's really started to emerge here. And I think they're going to Detroit. Both teams, equal amount of rest, are playing on Thanksgiving. But the Lions, decimated by injuries after that Thursday night game. Taylor Decker's out. Just a whole bunch of guys who are just going to be missing for this game.
Anzalone, Malcolm
Yeah,
Rodriguez,
just all
obviously Hodge.
huge, huge names just missing for this Lions team. And, they just didn't look that impressive to me, Lewis, in that second half of that game. And you can tell me they were dominating the entire first half and, they are feeling really comfortable. But a couple of these games throughout the season now, it's just been they go off to these really hot starts, get these huge leads, and in the second half they really cool off. Now, credit to them, they end up winning those games. But now the Packers, after being embarrassed last time in that rainy game when everyone said Jared Goff couldn't play outdoors, he really shut those people up. But now it's time for the Packers to come back to the Lions Den, just like they did last year. Now a week after Thanksgiving, I think they can get it done.
So this game is going to be really exciting because it's not a traditional Thursday night game. Both these teams played last Thanksgiving, so they get a full regular week to prepare. And boy, do the Lions need it. Like you mentioned, the injuries holding them back, but now they come back to home where haven't been that great in the division. In their last few divisional games at home, they cover 10% against the spread versus they covered all of their games against the spread on the road. Smaller sample size, but I think it's still significant. And then as for the Packers here, they've been very quietly dominating these past few weeks against a frisky Dolphins team, which I'll have to take an L on. I did pick the Dolphins to win that game. And then the 49ers the week before, they've handled business soundly. And that's not just been from Jordan Love and your Toyota Thon, whatever that he's been on. It's really been Matt LaFleur in this run game that's been established. Josh Jacobs, everyone talks about Derrick Henry and they talk about Saquon Barkley, these huge free agent acquisitions, but
Saquon.
just swept under the rug. Josh Jacobs, if you're just a I'm not going to get into it. Whatever. I'm an unbiased football analyst. I don't let my other agendas go into it. But Josh Jacobs, third in the league in rushing, really been just a solidifying force for this Packers offense all season long, moving the chains there, top 10 in the league in rushing. And over the past few weeks, they've really been dominating. And this is the time of the year where it's cold football. I know we'll be playing in Detroit in the Dome, but still that type of football. And the Lions' injuries, especially their defensive front, are just insane right now. The Lions have now won 10 games in a row. You can say they're due, and then they got a mini bye before their next game against Buffalo at home. So if there's a game to drop, I think it's this one. But the margins are so close that, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to potentially get an extra point on you in a matchup like this, I went into this week and into this game saying I think the Packers are going to win on the road, just like they did last year, like you mentioned. They're going to win 31 to Lions 23.
And I'm going to say the Packers win 28-26. Huge Jaden Reed and Josh Jacobs game, just like last week.
Huge Jordan Love game.
As the Packers continue to march on. Let's go ahead and get into Sunday, Lewis. We have a Kirk Cousins revenge game. The Falcons are traveling to Minnesota to play the Vikings, and the Vikings, Las Vegas's darling, are favored by an entire 6 points, almost a whole touchdown. And I mean, I've picked against this Vikings team many times throughout this year thinking, this is the week. They haven't looked that good. And I'm not doing it this week. I'm telling you right now, I'm not making that same mistake in this one. Kirk Cousins, in a winnable game last week against the Chargers, who looked awful, had 4 of the worst interceptions this definitely for this season. Awful pick 6, an awful pick in the red zone. I mean, just an abysmal game from him. And I have a feeling we might see a little Penix action in this game if we see some of that continue, because I just see this Vikings team just blitzing the hell out of Kirk Cousins. His mobility in the pocket has been there, especially if you look at that pick 6 play where he wasn't able to drive the ball in that well on that little out route. And, it's just getting to that point of his career. And I think this is going to be a really tough game for him. And the Vikings pull another one out of the bag last week against the Cardinals. I just think, we always talk about teams are due for a loss. This is another team that's due, but against this bad Falcons team who's lost 3 games in a row, I just don't see it.
Yeah, and it's important to note the Falcons' recent decline where my gut instinct when I saw this line of 6 points, I was like, oh gosh, I feel like Atlanta's getting good value here. But you look at their past 3 matchups, Laraib, they lose a tight one, on the road at New Orleans when, new coach, kind of weird environment. You kind of give them a pass. But, at Broncos, you get trounced 38-6. And then you come home against a Chargers team who's coming off a short week after playing Monday night before. And it's the interceptions. You outplayed them. You outgained them. You were kind of dominating the entire game, but it was just Kirk Cousins just kept shooting himself in the foot. This is a must dominate game for Kirk Cousins here. And you know what, Laraib? I'm throwing an audible. I think Kirk Cousins goes into Minnesota, right? It's in Minnesota? Mm-hmm. Yes. In Minnesota. Justin Jefferson on the other sideline watching, saying, man, Sam Darnold's been good to me, but that guy was great to me. And I am watching him come back. He probably took last week off, whatever. You give him that. This Falcons team still moved the ball. They got good pressure last week against a decent Chargers offensive line that's been playing a lot better recently. And against, I hate to say it, and I know because Kirk Cousins looks so bad, we're just going to ignore the pumpkin in the room that is Sam Darnold.
Hey, I mean, he went on that game-winning drive. They needed a touchdown. He drove down the length of the field and scored a touchdown.
If there's ever been a red bird team known for choking, it's the Arizona Cardinals, but not the Atlanta Falcons. This is my ballsiest pick of the year. And you know what? Sometimes in this sport, you got to go with your gut. And I think Kirk Cousins is not dead. he hears the noise. And just like week 2 against the Eagles, when he was written off after that loss to the Steelers, he won't write back. Give me Kirk Cousins, give me Drake London, and give me the Atlanta Falcons to pull off the upset on a Younghoe Koo game-winning field goal, 31-28.
Yeah, Younghoe Koo, he's had his own issues as well. So,
Yeah.
hey, feel free to pick that team. I'm going to go with the Vikings at 27-21 as they spoil Kirk Cousins' homecoming.
I'm not taking it back. I'm not taking it back.
All right, well, let's move on to another game. We have the Seattle Seahawks going to Arizona to play the Cardinals in a game we just had 2 weeks ago. And now the Cardinals favored by 2.5 at home. Lewis, which way are you leaning?
Well, if you remember, Laraib, last time I picked the Seahawks and you picked the Cardinals, and I was right and you were wrong. Pause for applause, right? I'm just giving the audience something to think about. But this time around, are they really going to sweep the Cardinals? This, bipolar Cardinals team that's been up and down all season long. They lose a heartbreaking game against Minnesota last week, and now back at home against a team they saw 2 weeks ago. What's the outcome going to be? And my gut is leaning Cardinals, which means I'm picking the Seahawks in this matchup. And you know what? This has been a really good indicator for how I pick Cardinals games that have close lines so far this season. And I think what's the underrated thing about the Seattle defense is once they started getting their guys healthy, they've been able to stop the run. They really stifled James Conner in that first matchup. And at home, on the road, it is going to be tougher for them to do that. But, just look at Seattle's defense the past few weeks, really putting up awesome numbers, and their season-long stats aren't going to look that impressive for in those games where they were just getting blown out by like the Lions, teams like that, the Bills. But now starting to find your groove in the division. I think Geno Smith is just a more consistent quarterback at this point than Kyler Murray. We're already getting a new zombies map in Black Ops. I don't know if Kyler's a big zombies guy, but if you want your Nebula camos, this is the time. And I just think that Geno's locked in stupidly at this point. So I'm going with the Seahawks in this matchup.
Last time I went with the Arizona Cardinals, and this time I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks. Everything you mentioned
Yeah.
on that Seahawks defense have really turned it up, and they've been a bright spot, especially in that sloppy game against the Jets last week where your offense really not clicking in the first half. Special teams are fumbling the ball on back-to-back kickoffs. And so, I mean, I still go with that defense is
Leonard
playing very
Williams.
well. And the Cardinals, Lewis, in their last 9 quarters, they've scored 1 offensive touchdown. Really not that impressive. It just looks like, this is what we've seen from Kyler Murray the past couple years now. A lot of people say it was a Cliff Kingsbury, right, who really just starts to fall off in the second half of the season. But that also, some of that has to go on Kyler too. And offensively, they just have not lived up to it. Like you mentioned, James Conner got bottled up last time they played. If something similar happens in this game and you have to rely on Kyler Murray and his connection with Marvin Harrison Jr., which just has not, fully formed yet, I just don't think this is going to be a good recipe for success. Now, again, I'm going to say this is a low scoring game, a lot of defense, a lot of sloppy plays by both teams, but I think the Seahawks come out on top 21-20.
Ooh, so you're really getting close to that line there. I'm going a lot lower scoring. I'm going Seahawks 20 to Arizona 13 in this matchup. Next one up, another NFC West team, the Los Angeles Rams, hosting the almighty Buffalo Bills here. Buffalo looking impressive as ever. Over under for this game, 49.5. Buffalo is a 3.5 point favorite on the road. Now the Rams have really not looked that impressive the past few weeks. Just disappointing offensive performances. Matt Stafford really inefficient on third down this year, which has kind of been his calling card in his first few stints as the Rams starting quarterback. And, the offensive line hasn't been able to block that well. Kyren Williams is still a freaking stud, but sometimes they just want to hand it off to Blake Corum to just experiment and just. Anyway, Anyway, excuse me. I think the key in this matchup for the Rams is you need to find an offensive consistency. And if there's any chink in the armor for this Buffalo Bills team, it is that rush defense. And it still remains this way. But just teams, they get down to Buffalo, they try to pass. And in a snowy game like last week, kind of throw that one out of the window. And the Rams, it just, when you're not used to that turf, like who did they play last week? Excuse me, the Bills.
The
In the
49ers.
snow. The 49ers. You're not used to that snowy field. This game in warm Los Angeles is going to melt some of the Bills players, you could say. But one man remains the hottest player in the league, Laraib, and that is Josh Allen. Congrats to him and Haley Steinfeld, by the way. Almost thought it was going to be you, Laraib, but couldn't quite crack it. Justin Herbert, still single, though. But I do like the Bills in this matchup. I just think Josh Allen's been playing on another level this season, and they're clearly on a mission. The 1 seed is still in grasp for them. Kansas City with a tough matchup that we're going to get to next. It's just a lot of inconsistency for this Rams offense, and then Sean McDermott has this Bills defense playing a lot better football. This unit's really starting to gel. And one of the standout players, Laraib, highest PFF grade on the Bills defense is guess who? Damar Hamlin. He's been playing really good football. And just the way Sean McDermott coaches these guys, they put their players in the right positions to succeed. I think McDermott will end up besting McVay in the matchup with the Seans.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's just this Rams team, like you mentioned, so inconsistent all season long. You never know what you're gonna get. And then for the Bills, they Matt Milano came back last week. Our guy, huge fan of the pod. And then they also signed Micah Hyde. So I mean, they're getting some familiar faces back in the building. And this 3.5 is, I think, really disrespectful for the Bills. They are just going to blow this Rams team out of the water, in my opinion. I like the Bills 33-24.
Yep, I like the Bills as well. I'm going a little lower, scoring 27-17 in this matchup. Finally, Sunday Night Football, a really good game here. We have the Los Angeles Chargers at 8-4 traveling to Kansas City to face the divisional rival Chiefs at 11-1. Kansas City favored by 4 at home, Laraib, and Kansas City skating by the skin of their teeth game after game after game. And you know who you can also say that about? The Jim Harbaugh Chargers. Chargers finding a way to win last week against the Falcons. Just Kirk Cousins kept giving them opportunities to stay in the game, and boy, did they. Really didn't look impressive, but you can say that the same thing about the Chiefs. Just don't look impressive the entire game, but every single time they need to step up, they do. So I made a little bit of an audible earlier, and you might be expecting me to go a certain way. But I like the Chiefs here in this matchup, Laraib. I just think this Chargers offense, these weapons do not. Rooting for a weapon on this team whose name is not Ladd McConkey is really hard to do. And the big weakness that I've seen from this Chargers team defensively has been the loss of Peyton Watson, I believe that's his name, or Justin Watson, excuse me, their second cornerback, which has really hurt their secondary because that second corner is getting abused out in space. But against this Chargers team, there's really not a second option offensively that won't be really exercised that much in this game. And then you say, all right, what's the biggest Chiefs struggle on offense? It's that left tackle performance. But recently signed tackle DJ Humphries, who's been a solid guard or tackle in the league for a while. He's going to make his first start this week against Khalil Mack and that front seven. It's going to be tough, but he's definitely an upgrade over Wanye Morris, who's just getting bowled over like a damn turnstile.
Like a Stone Forsythe.
Hey, Stone Forsythe. Hey, he's not playing anymore. We got him.
No, he is not.
Well, what's our boy? What's the right tackle?
Abe Lucas.
Seahawks now. Abe Lucas. He's back. So we're good. Hey, and now Seahawks are first place in the division. I digress. I think the Chiefs had the matchup here. And the Chiefs still in it for the race for the 1 seed. And if you're looking at the Bills who've been on a roll, they recently beat you in a head-to-head matchup. You know these games are not for granted. The Raiders put a good scare into you. I think the Chiefs have a good offensive performance against a Chargers defense that I think is definitely gettable. I like the Chiefs here at home.
Yep, and I'm also going with the Chiefs. I mean, I've seen this story a million freaking times. And the big thing for me in this game is that Chargers rushing attack with Gus Edwards out there, the Gus bus. The tread on those tires is virtually gone. And I think if this Chargers team cannot run the
It's
ball,
worn.
they are going to have trouble against this Chiefs defense, who've been great against the run. And when you really force Herbert to have to force the balls into tight windows to Quentin Johnston, it's just not a great recipe. I do think this is going to be a close game. Chargers are going to be up, late in the fourth quarter. They're going to have a shot. And then, there come the Chiefs. Field goal is good by their third kicker that they signed this season. And the Chiefs win. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs 27-24.
And Mahomes remembers this game from week 4 when Rashee Rice went down after his interception, and he's been damning it. Definitely him and not me, but since that injury ever happened, and he's looking for some revenge. Like I said, the Raiders put the scare in the Chiefs last week about all right, it's that time of the year. We need to start locking in. And I think they make a statement here on Sunday Night Football that we are Kansas City and we are approaching the three-peat as the Kansas City Chiefs win in emphatic fashion, 35-13. Can you believe that, Laraib? This is Sunday Night Football. Whew. Anyway, let's go ahead and did you have something else to say at the end right there?
No.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go through the rest of our slate. What's up?
No.
Did you? Okay. Anyway, let's go through the rest of our slate, starting with our noon games. You have the New Orleans Saints traveling to New York to face the Giants. Saints are 4-point favorites on the road. Laraib, who do you have and why?
I'm going with the New York Football Giants. You're telling me this sorry ass Saints team is traveling from New Orleans and going all the way to New York and they're going to win that football game against Drew Lock? Hell no. And what better way for this Giants team to lose out on the number 1 overall pick than winning the stupidest game they could all season against Coach Riz and Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints at home. This is going to be a huge game. Drew Lock in his second ever start for the Giants. He's going to get more acclimated with his guy, Malik Neighbors. Tyrone Tracy, he's going to go crazy in this one, huh? And then Devin Singletary will get all the goal line carries. I think the Giants pull off the victory here, 21-20.
You're wrong. Who's the best player on the Giants team, Laraib?
Malik Neighbors.
Dexter Lawrence out for the season. And this Giants team has completely given up on its coach, on its organization. All these guys are playing for is a bag right now. But Coach Rizzi, a.k.a. the Clogger, still highly motivating these guys. Tough loss last week. You lose Taysom Hill. These guys want a big win in the Big Apple. Put on a show for the New York fans. Give me the Saints in this one, 23 to Giants 16. Next game up, Laraib, we have Jacksonville traveling to Tennessee. Tennessee, 3.5-point favorites. Trevor Lawrence out for the season, likely attributed to that hit he took last Sunday. Who do you got and why?
I'm going with the Titans. I think they've been playing really good offensively. Shout out Will Levis. If only he could have turned this on earlier in the season, but alas, him and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Calvin Ridley have really started to form. And then, Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, those two will both be playing in this game. So it's good to have some of those guys back, offensively. And then for the Jags, I will never in my life pick a team who's starting Mac Jones as their starting quarterback. So I'm going to go with the Titans 26-20.
I agree with you here. Mac Jones has just been awful. And I actually had some expectation for him, but it's just been an awful start. This offensive line is garbage, and Doug Peterson is already booking them flights to Cancun. So I have Mac Jones losing to the Titans 23-17. Next one up, Laraib, we have the New York Jets traveling to Miami to face the Dolphins. Dolphins 5.5-point favorites. I like the Dolphins in this one. Jets put up great performance last week. too little, too late against Seattle, who ended up coming back. This Jets team is just self-destructing before our very eyes, where I think Miami's still not out of the playoff race, playing the Jets team in Miami still has a lot to prove. I think they have more talent, better run organization, better run offense and defense. I'm going with the Dolphins here.
Yeah, the Dolphins just have more to play for. The Jets, really starting to wrap things up. Just, getting to that offseason as quickly as they can to get rid of this Aaron Rodgers debacle. I'm going to also go with the Dolphins 28-20.
All right, next one up, we have the Carolina Panthers traveling to Philadelphia. Philadelphia, 13-point favorites. That's the biggest spread of the season, Laraib. And Carolina, they aren't the same Carolina from weeks 1 through 10, Laraib. This team has been playing really good football the last month or so. And, overtime game against Tampa last week shows the team is really fighting. Bryce Young's playing a lot better. I'm still picking the Eagles in this matchup, but I think 13 points is way too disrespectful of a line. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here, 30-20.
I'm also going with the Eagles here, but I think this is going to be an important game to watch. I just want to see what type of energy this Eagles team comes out with. Are they going to be fat and happy after beating the Ravens last week? Are they going to continue to put their heads down and play good football against, like you mentioned, a frisky Panthers team? This Eagles team still going for the number 1 seed, still have a lot to play for. Let's see what type of energy they come out with. But I'm going to pick the Eagles 30-21.
All right, Laraib, the next game we have is the Cleveland Browns traveling to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. Steelers a little revenge here after losing a few weeks ago, 6.5-point favorites at home. And I do think the Steelers get their revenge here. Tough game, last time in the snow. A lot of things did not go their way that could have. Meanwhile, the Browns coming off a Monday Night Football game, now traveling to Pittsburgh. Just a really tough ask for this Browns team. So I like the Steelers in this matchup. I think their defensive line has a field day against Jameis. And Jameis getting a little more interception happy as the more games he starts. I think he gives the Steelers one in this game.
Yeah, and I'm also going with the Steelers after I correctly predicted the Browns would win that Thursday night game. I think the
They put my
Steelers,
head on my pillow.
my Steelers here at home after a huge offensive outing last week. They continue that this week against a Browns team who, frisky here and there, but just too much for them to handle. In this one, I like the Steelers 31-21.
All right, and then we have the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Tampa and a Super Bowl in 2001 rematch, the Gruden Bowl. Tampa favored by 6.5 points. Bucky Irving, the new fantasy darling, has been a huge revelation for this Tampa team. They've been running the ball like crazy, and against a bad rush defense like the Las Vegas, I think they continue this trend. Baker Mayfield getting more and more comfortable with a shot to take the lead in the NFC South. Give me the Buccaneers winning this ball game.
Yeah, James Baker Mayfield had a
James.
Raymond James Bank Stadium had me confused for a second.
Oh,
But yes, Baker Mayfield,
like
a little shaky in that game against the Panthers last week, had a really bad interception. But the Raiders are just gonna find a way to lose with Antonio Pierce as their head coach.
geez.
So I like the Bucks 27-20.
I like making money. Anywho, final game here, Laura. We have your Chicago Bears traveling to San Francisco to face the 49ers. 49ers 3.5-point favorites at home. Yeah, I'm taking the 49ers. The Bears team is just going to find a way to lose, even though, guess what? I almost forgot, Laraib, and I could have lost the week because I forgot. The new coach bump from Thomas Brown, interim head coach. Give me the Chicago Bears in this game. This 49ers team is floundering. And the Bears, new energy. A lot of the guys right after Evildoos was fired saying, we did not like him. We didn't trust him. And it was similar vibes to Dennis Allen and Josh McDaniels. And guess what? That team comes out with a new energy. They've had 10 days to prep off of a early Thursday football game. They've been excited. They've been ready. 49ers team, what are they even doing? They're getting blown out week after week. And I think the Bears come in there, they run the ball, establish Thomas Brown's new offensive system. Caleb Williams playing the best football of his career so far. Give me the Chicago Bears, not in Chicago, in San Francisco.
And I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers Coach Kyle
Oh my
Shanahan
God, my
is
chalk.
going to prove why he deserves to be the coach of the 49ers for next season. Isaac Guerrero, huge game for him in this one against his
Hey.
bad Bears team who got ran all over on Thanksgiving. And I see the same thing happening in this one. The 49ers with Brock Purdy and Jawan Jennings. I think those two have a huge game. You know, it would be crazy to trade away Brock Purdy and not start him when he's facing this sorry Bears team. I like the 49ers to win 27-20.
You have your opinions and I have mine. And that's why when I come back this week, it's going to taste even sweeter because of the swings that I do swing. Anyway, Laraib, let's go ahead. That'll conclude our. Oh, no. Oh, I almost forgot. There is a Monday night football game this week, Laraib. The Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Dallas to face the Cowboys. Before the season, this was an awesome game. Right now, kind of sucks. Two 4-win team or a 4-win team and a 5-win team. The 5-win team is actually Dallas. Would not think that the way they played as of late, but here we are. Bengals are favored on the road by 5.5. Eesh. I'm going with the Bengals though. Joe Burrow is not going to lose to Cooper Rush. Simple.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the Bengals. I mean,
Yeah, we know.
technically, the Cowboys are still in it. They are still
Yeah.
in it.
They are.
No way in hell I can pick that team to win. I'm going to go with the Bengals. I think Joe Burrow
Oh,
and his newly acquired Batmobile will put the fear of Gotham
I saw that.
into the Cowboys. I like the Bengals to win 31-28.
All right, Laura. Well, that's going to do it for the games of the week. But before we go, we have our upsets, locks, and best bets of the week, Laura. Starting with my upset. I told you something at the beginning, but then I got this gut feeling towards the end, and I am going with the Chicago Bears as my upset of the week. I just think this new coach bump, it's a thing. It really is. They have more rest. San Francisco just went from all the way from Buffalo, now traveling all the way back home to sunnier conditions. A lot, Christian McCaffrey, a lot of stuff going on with the team. Anyway, I have the Bears as my upset.
Am I upset? I'm going with the New York Giants. What a way for the Giants to win this week, miss out on Shadur Sanders by beating the New Orleans Saints in a meaningless game in December. The Giants are going to giant. I think they pull off the upset at home.
All right, Robin, who is your lock of the week?
My lock, I'm maybe not as confident as I was in this team maybe 30 minutes ago, but I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Browns really showed me something offensively on Monday Night Football, but still, I think the Steelers, this is a huge, huge spot for them to continue to build their lead over the Ravens. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Steelers.
And that is locked in. No more heads on pillows to change this man's mind. And then my lock, I have the Raiders losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the John Gruden Bowl rematch. Raiders just not a very competent team. And Bucky Irving will lead us to freedom. Go Bucks. And then finally, best bet of the week, Lara. 13 is just too many points for this cardiac Carolina Panthers team. I don't care if the Eagles have been playing awesome football. I still think the Eagles are going to win by probably 2 scores. But 10-point margin for me. 13 points, way too much against this pristine Carolina team.
And for my best bet, I'm going Seahawks Cardinals under 44.5. Last time this game was what, 6-16 under 22. You're giving me double that this game? Hell no. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. A lot of bad turnovers by the offense, a lot of good defense by both teams. I think this one goes under 44.5.
All right, Laura, well, that's going to do it for all of our picks and breakdowns of the Week 14 slate. Final week of buys, and then once every team is healthy, rested, we are full speed ahead, moving on towards playoff football. So we will be back on Tuesday, hopefully. So look for us dropping here on YouTube. And Laura, you got anything else for our loyal fans?
No, I think that's the First and Goal podcast signing off.
Peace.